You two, grocery store together.
We've all been hearing about supply chain issues lately, but what does that really mean for you? Well, here are 10 items that might be hard to find at grocery stores soon.
Extremely hard to find.
Juice.
Look at all this apple juice.
Whether you just want a glass of juice in the morning or you're trying to pack your kids' lunch with their favorite juice box, you might be in for a headache. If the food shortage hasn't really gotten your attention yet, this could be about to change. It's been reported recently that there was a smaller than normal apple crop, and this has led to an increase in competition among manufacturers for scarce apples. There might not be enough of the popular fruit to go around to make all of the apple pies and fill up all those juice boxes. The people who make the Capri Sun brand of juice boxes have admitted that their company is still experiencing packaging, labor, and transportation issues.
We got problems.
These ongoing problems have made it harder to keep the store's shelves fully stocked. Some juice manufacturers have decreased production of some flavors of juice so they can concentrate on making some of the more popular flavors. If they can't make enough, you may have to switch from apple juice to something else. You might even have to start squeezing your own fresh juices. Spices.
There aren't any spices on the island.
Spices aren't really necessary items in the same way toilet paper and water are, but they sure can make some otherwise bland foods a lot more appealing. Whether it's a sprinkle of paprika on your baked potato or a spoonful of sugar in your morning coffee, you usually can take it for granted that they will be there when you want them. Many people have become much more conscious of their health since the start of the pandemic, resulting in certain spices that are believed to have antibacterial properties being in much greater demand than they used to be.
We don't have it anymore.
These coveted spices include nutmeg, cloves, garlic, ginger, apple cider vinegar, and honey. There's often not a shortage of the actual spices themselves, but the spice manufacturers are experiencing disruptions in other industries. Disruptions in plastic manufacturing have created package shortages. The package shortage includes those little plastic bottles that contain your favorite spices, meaning they might be hard to find at grocery stores soon. Toilet paper.
Toilet paper? Toilet paper? Toilet paper.
Many items we buy are not really necessities, but most people will agree that toilet paper is one of those items we need to have in our lives. The paper shortage has been a worldwide, persistent phenomenon since pandemic shutdowns took hold at the beginning of 2020. Fast forward to the fall of 2021, and retailers like Costco started warning customers about the possibility of another toilet paper shortage. The retail giant also revealed that it would implement purchase limits at some of its stores to stave off the bulk buying that was seen the first time around. Toilet paper has gotten a lot of attention, but the paper shortage has affected everything from printing paper to the paper bags you get at grocery stores.
Not enough.
You probably aren't going to see many people trying to hoard paper bags, but when it comes to toilet paper, you know that all bets are off. Retailers such as Costco have already had to deal with customers who were panic buying pallets of toilet paper in the early days of the shutdowns. Many of these same customers tried to return their stash of toilet paper when catastrophe didn't strike. Try not to be one of those people who made the situation worse, but be aware that toilet paper might be hard to find soon. Cream cheese.
I can't even remember your cream cheese.
This dairy product is definitely not a necessity, but it is a common food used by a lot of people on their morning bagels and to make cheesecakes. Like with other shortages, there's more than one reason why. The first thing to keep in mind is that cream cheese is a perishable food, so manufacturers have to be mindful of how they balance supply and demand. Many businesses, including the dairy industry, have had a tough time keeping their plants fully staffed. These labor shortages have contributed to product shortages. However, even when the cream cheese is available, there have been shortages in packaging, and this has contributed to shipping delays.
I'm tired of waiting.
A shortage of truck drivers that seems to be getting worse has also delayed the transportation of products like cream cheese from the plants to the stores. The physical supply chain is certainly an issue, but the security of the cyber infrastructure is also a growing problem. Hacking has become a constant threat to companies and is likely to get worse. One of the largest cream cheese manufacturers in Wisconsin was hit by a cyber attack in October 2021 that caused the plant to temporarily shut down. All of these issues might seem like a little too much when all you want is a bit of cream cheese to spread on your morning bagel. Avocados.
They eat avocados with everything.
While it's true California grows a lot of avocados, America still gets almost 80% of this popular green fruit from suppliers in Mexico. In the case of avocados, it wasn't so much a problem with the supply chain or with the crop, so much as it was a problem with the threats. An American food inspector working south of the border was put in danger. Just to be safe, the government in Washington decided to suspend the importation of all avocados from Mexico until officials were satisfied the inspector would be allowed to do his job. The timing of this disturbing incident could not have been any worse. The U.S. government's suspension of avocado shipments from Mexico came at pretty much the worst time possible because it was just one day before the NFL's Super Bowl. There was a real danger of disgruntled football fans failing to find enough avocados to make their guacamole for their parties. What would they do with all those tortilla chips? American suppliers have stepped up to try to fill the supply gap, but a lack of adequate rainfall in 2021 means California avocados will be smaller than their Mexican cousins. Eventually, the security situation in Mexico will surely go back to normal, but until then, you should know that it might be a little harder to make your favorite guacamole recipe. Pet food.
We spend $4 billion on pet food alone.
When it comes to feeding your pets, you probably have your go-to brands of food. Unfortunately, pet food might be hard to find at grocery stores soon. It's not only the actual ingredients that go into the food, but some of the materials that are used to make the packaging that are in short supply. Aluminum has been in short supply and is putting a crimp in Fido's favorite kibble. Between 2019 and 2020, there was a 10% rise in pet food sales, which put a burden on the entire pet food industry.
And that's hard.
Part of this increase was fueled by an increase in the cost of basic pet food ingredients such as corn, soy, and meat. Pet food manufacturers have had trouble getting enough of these basic ingredients. They have scrambled to find substitute ingredients that won't compromise the pet food's nutritional value. Some pet organizations have asked anxious owners to not hoard pet food because this kind of behavior only makes the shortages worse. The Pet Food Institute, an organization that represents pet food manufacturers, let the U.S. Department of Agriculture know that it expects the shortages to continue. Liquor.
Mustn't think of liquor.
Okay, alcoholic beverages, including your favorite liquors, are not food. However, for many people during the pandemic, liquor became a staple of sorts. The last couple of years have been tough, and not surprisingly, there was a dramatic increase in the consumption of spirits of all kinds during the shutdowns. The region of America spanning from the Northeast to the Midwest has been affected the most by the alcohol shortage. The three places that seem to have been hit the hardest are Vermont, North Carolina, and Ohio. For example, Ohio saw a 10% increase in the sale of alcohol from 2019 to 2020.
You want a
Drink.
Vermont saw an even bigger jump with a 13% spike in liquor sales. You might not be surprised to learn that all of this drinking put a lot of pressure on alcohol suppliers. This increase in demand helped create a supply problem that could be around for a while. Manufacturers have been having some trouble ramping production back up to meet the increased demand now that restaurants and bars are back to full capacity. Alcohol might be hard to find in some places, but there's really no shortage of the coveted beverages themselves. It's actually the demand for bottles and cans that manufacturers are having trouble keeping up with. canned goods.
Stock up on canned goods and water.
There are a number of reasons for the continued product shortages many people have had to deal with over the last couple years, and one of them is intentional. For example, the makers of Campbell's soups know chicken noodle is one of their best sellers, so the company decided to cut back on the production of some of the less popular soups and concentrate on making more cans of chicken noodle soup. This decision has led to a shortage of some of the less popular products. There's also an ongoing issue with the materials used to make the cans, specifically the aluminum that your corn, tomato sauce, and fruit cocktail are packaged in.
I've got so many problems.
China is one of the biggest exporters of the versatile metal, and the country has had trouble getting back to full production because of labor shortages at manufacturing plants. Brace yourself, but this aluminum shortage could also make it harder to get your favorite can of soda. Perhaps you could buy an extra six-pack if you see one, but panic buying will only make the situation worse. A lack of adequate aluminum supplies is one of the reasons canned goods are one of the items that might be hard to find at the grocery stores soon. Milk.
Not that milk. That milk.
Milk is one of those basic items that people tend to take for granted in normal times. In these not-so-normal times, milk has become one of those items that might be hard to find. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has pointed out that cow herds in America are significantly smaller than they were just a few years ago. Many factors are conspiring to cause shortages, such as labor and transportation problems that don't have a quick and easy fix. The extent of the supply chain problems was made clear to the public when dairy farmers in Wisconsin were forced to dump their milk supplies because they knew the milk would not get shipped to stores before it spoiled.
This is such a lose-lose situation.
This tragedy was happening even as shoppers were finding depleted dairy cases at their local supermarkets. Eggs are just as much of a staple as milk for many people, and this food has been affected by shortages as well. Even before the pandemic started causing shortages in the winter of 2020, cage-free mandates passed by the legislatures in California and Massachusetts promised to put pressure on the supply of eggs going forward. And to possibly make things even worse, there has been an avian flu outbreak recently that reduced the egg supply even further. Meat.
Meat. No meat. It's all good.
The food shortages many people have been experiencing have been caused by multiple factors such as shutdowns, labor shortages, and transportation issues. Russia's invasion of its neighbor Ukraine in February 2022 has been cited as another reason to expect food shortages to continue. A recent survey of shoppers found that more than half of them had experienced at least some difficulty finding the meat that they wanted. From bacon to brisket, when it comes to all the delicious meats you enjoy, the shortages have been caused mostly by repeated plant shutdowns and stubborn labor problems. Just as these issues were impacting the supply of meat, the demand for meat was going up.
What? I need more.
Because of the shutdowns, people were suddenly at home, cooking more than they had been before the pandemic struck. Many of these at-home chefs have since gone back to work, but some experts have warned that shoppers should understand that continuing shortages of certain kinds of meat are possible. You will likely have a little more trouble getting beef than, say, poultry, because beef processing is more labor-intensive than other meats. Even though the demand for meat might decrease a bit because inflation has raised the prices, meat will likely continue to be one of the items that might be hard to find at grocery stores soon. Stick around, leave us a comment, hit that subscribe button, and tap or click on another great video.